In the untamed wild, a creature will not strike unless it senses danger or is driven by hunger, acting solely out of the primal instinct to survive. Yet man is a different beast. Man inflicts suffering upon his fellow beings and other creatures, not from necessity, but from an insatiable greed and a thirst for power. The annals of history are drenched in the blood of innocent victims of genocides and mass slaughters, sacrificed at the altar of domination and rapaciousness. This film is a solemn denouncement of the ideologies of aggression, a poignant reflection on the senseless brutality that has scarred humanity.
The BBC's reported on camps like these in Western China, where about 1 million Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities have been detained without trial.
1.1 crore Uyghurs reside in Xinjiang, China. Since 2017, the Chinese government has imprisoned over 10 lakh Uyghurs, imposing intense surveillance, religious restrictions, forced labor, and sterilization.
Chinese technology giant Huawei has reportedly tested an artificial intelligence software which could identify the faces of Uyghur minorities and send an alert to the Chinese authorities.
While the Muslim world frequently condemns Islamophobia in the West, there remains a striking silence on China's suppression of Islam and Uyghur culture. Equally unsettling is the global indifference to the plight of Uyghur Muslims, a quiet disregard that leaves a profound question unaddressed. But oppression of Muslim communities isn't confined to China alone. Across the globe, another grim reality unfolds, a story of violence often born from within. A landmark report by the French think tank Fondapol, supported by the Global Terrorism Database, reveals that between 1979 and 2019, Islamist extremism was responsible for 33,769 terrorist attacks worldwide, claiming over 1,67,000 lives. Alarmingly, 91.2% of the victims were Muslims, highlighting the brutal reality of Islamist violence. It overwhelmingly preys on those it claims to defend. Crores of people in India were killed in the medieval period by Islamic invaders. Will Durant called the Islamic conquest of India probably the bloodiest story in history. Professor K.S. Lal estimated 6 to 8 crore deaths due to Islamic invasions in India from 1000 AD to 1525 AD.
US President Donald Trump has promised to build a Hindu Holocaust memorial in Washington, D.C. while addressing an event on Diwali.
I fully endorse the idea of building a Hindu Holocaust memorial in D.C.
Modeled on the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., which documents Nazi atrocities against the Jewish community, this proposed memorial recognizes the immense suffering Hindu society endured during centuries of invasion and oppression by Islamic forces. The 20th century witnessed death and slaughter on an unprecedented scale. It was the century of the Holocaust and 2 world wars, of communist, Nazi, fascist and military dictators who between them killed more than 10 crore people. The Jewish Holocaust was one of history's darkest periods, with millions of Jews enduring unimaginable suffering and loss. Research shows that this extreme trauma altered their genes, impacting both survivors and their descendants.
In the first generation, in a Holocaust survivor, it suggests that there has been an adaptation or a response to a horrendous environmental event. And in the second generation, it suggests that there has also been a response of the offspring to this parental trauma.
It's crucial to study the Hindu community similarly, as they too faced centuries of persecution and genocide, to understand its lasting effects on their descendants. Partition of India in 1947 unleashed Muslim League's megalomaniac killing machine. Millions were massacred, provoking a response from the other side too. Around 80 lakh non-Muslims moved from Pakistan to India, and around 75 lakh Muslims moved from India to West and East Pakistan, according to the Government of India figures. The estimates of those killed have varied from 5 lakh to over 10 lakh. The generally accepted figure stands at around 5 lakh, according to the Government of India data. Bureau of Police Research and Development, BPR&D, reveals 43 active terror groups from Pakistan in India. India ranks 3rd globally in terror incidents, following Iraq and Afghanistan. South Asia Terrorism Portal reveals that 47,130 persons were killed in terror-related events between the years 2000 and 2024. Between 1947 and 2023, 35,098 people were killed in communal riots all over the country. Government of India data shows that over 2,900 cases of communal rioting were registered in the country between 2017 and 2021. The economic repercussions of terrorism and communal violence in India are staggering. For instance, the SOCHAM report highlights the impact of just 60 hours of terror during the 26/11 attacks, leading to a loss of 4,000 crore rupees to Mumbai alone. This event inflicted an overall loss of $100 billion to the Indian economy, with foreign direct investment taking a significant hit of $20 billion, according to the Asia Economics Institute. In 2017, the Sydney-based Institute for Economics and Peace calculated the total monetary impact of violence in India, which was equivalent to 9% of the country's GDP, amounting to a colossal $1 trillion in purchasing power parity terms. This translates to approximately 80 lakh crore Indian rupees for that year. Moving into 2020, violence continued to drain the economy, incurring a cost of $646 billion, or about 53,700 crore Indian rupees, representing 6% of the nation's GDP. The Delhi riots of that year highlighted a troubling trend. A new model of urban warfare allegedly orchestrated by the Naxal Jihadi alliance, involving groups such as CPI, Maoist, PFI, Jamaat-e-Islami and other jihadist organizations. This ongoing threat of violence and terrorism imposes a heavy economic toll on India, posing significant challenges to its stability and growth. In the words of Turkey's President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, mosques are our barracks, the domes are helmets, the minarets are bayonets, and the Muslim faithful are soldiers. This declaration underscores the significance of mosques in the lives of Muslims, highlighting their role in the pursuit of global Islamic supremacy. For Muslims worldwide, the mosque is more than a place of worship. It serves as a central institution where various activities, including religious education and community gatherings, take place. It is important to note that many mosques are affiliated with madrasas, where young students receive religious instruction, including teachings that promote a vision of widespread Islamic significance. Islam has a strong congregational tradition, with a customary ritual that encourages all Muslims to attend Friday prayers in mosques. In India, often the crowd of the believers overflow out of the mosques to the streets. During these prayers, imams deliver religious sermons as part of the post-namaz khutbah. We are heading to Sundar Nagari in northeast Delhi, near the Uttar Pradesh border. We have received multiple reports from local residents and TV journalists of rising aggression against the minority Hindu community.
दिल्ली के सुंदर नगरी में एक मनीष नाम के एक लड़के की हत्या के बाद लोगों का गुस्सा काफी ज्यादा दिखाई दे रहा है। फांसी की मांग।
आक्रोश रैली over Dalits murder in Delhi. That's the breaking news.
सुंदर नगरी में कोमल नाम की हिंदू लड़की का इन जिहादियों ने गला दबा करके उसका शव नदी वगैरह गंदे नाले में फेंक दिया। 22 साल की बच्ची, एक दलित हिंदू परिवार की बच्ची थी।
Sundar Nagari, predominantly home to Dalits and economically disadvantaged Hindus, is transforming into a no-go zone in the heart of the national capital.
मंदिरों की आगे सबकी जो है ना आरतियां बंद करा दी है। एक आध मंदिर है जिसमें आरती होती है। ये तो नई-नई बातें उखड़ के आ रही हैं।
Fear and uncertainty have gripped the Dalit community as a result of a growing Hindu exodus from the area.
कभी गाली माँ बहन की, कभी कुछ का गाली देते हैं, कभी कुछ करते हैं। तो हम इनको बोलते हैं तो वो उल्टा सीधा हमसे बोलते हैं।
अलग अलग गाली, अब किसी को शांत कराओ, फिर वो अपने उनको और बुला के लाते हैं ज़्यादा लड़ाई करने के लिए।
सुंदर नगरी में जितना भी हिंदू रह रहा है, अपने सब कुछ खत्म करके व्यक्ति मैं कुछ नहीं हूँ। ये सब गाड़ी कटने वाली है, सब चोरी के हैं। ये जो टायर खड़े हैं ना, ये पे
This place has become a hub for profitable illegal enterprises, including stolen car rackets and unauthorized car dismantling workshops.
विदाउट लाइसेंस, किसी के पास कोई लाइसेंस नहीं है, 100 दुकानें कबाड़ियों ने यहाँ खोली हुई हैं। जितनी एनसीआर में गाड़ी पुरानी आती है या नई, जो भी चोरी चारी जो भी कुछ होता है, वो सब यहाँ पे है।
Unregulated animal slaughter in residential areas is a long-standing tool used by religious zealots to desecrate Hindu places of worship.
जो चीज़ हम नहीं खाते हैं वो भी कहेंगे जी हमसे यही काटेंगे।
यहाँ पर एक गौ काटी गई थी।
मंदिर में सांप चोला चढ़ाने भी जाओ, बेबी बदबू आती है।
मंदिर के अंदर लोग पूजा तक करने के लिए नहीं जाते।
नाली के अंदर ही खून बहता है जी, और नाली बड़े नाले में सीवर में जाता है, और सीवर के माध्यम से वही जमुना में जाता है।
यहाँ पे शराब, चरस, अफीम, गांजे, जितनी भी चीजें हैं, सभी यहाँ बिकती हैं।
Once a Hindu majority locality, Sundar Nagari has witnessed a dramatic demographic shift, with the Hindu community now reduced to just 40% of the population. This shift is fueled by a surge in criminality, harassment of Hindu women, bullying, and a general breakdown in law and order, prompting many Hindu families to leave. Local testimonies paint a picture of a crumbling environment where hooliganism and intimidation are daily realities.
अगर वहाँ का लोग विरोध करते हैं तो वहाँ के मुस्लिम समुदाय के लोग आके उन्हें धमका जाते हैं। इस वजह से हिंदू लोग चुप हो जाते हैं और मजबूरी में वो अपना पलायन कर रहे हैं।
तो मैं यहाँ से पलायन कर चुका हूँ। मेरा यहाँ पर मकान अभी भी है, लेकिन मैं यहाँ नहीं रह रहा। मैं जाकर उत्तर प्रदेश में ऑक्सी होम में रह रहा हूँ। कारण है कि यहाँ सुबह 5 बजे से ये गाड़ियों की कटाई ठक 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 शुरू हो जाती थी, और इनकी बदतमीजी शुरू हो जाती। बच्चे पढ़ नहीं सकते, इनको अगर रोको तो ये गाड़ी मारपीट के लिए तैयार हो जाती थी।
यहाँ पे पार्कों को में मस्जिदें बना रखी हैं, पार्कों में मदरसे बनवा रखे हैं, और उनमें जो है ना गतिविधियाँ ऐसी हैं कि ऐसे ऐसे लोग आते हैं जिनको कभी कोई देखा नहीं है। संदिग्ध व्यक्ति होते हैं वो, ऐसे संदिग्ध व्यक्ति आज भी अभी भी ठहरे हुए हैं यहाँ। ये मदरसा यहाँ पे पार्क बना के मदरसा बना रखा है वहाँ पे, और जो कि जिनकी गतिविधियाँ हमें जो है ना आतंकवादी लगती हैं।
The systematic radicalization of youth and children is evident in the increasing number of madrasas and mosques that have emerged. We found a madrasa nearby where a Maulvi was imparting theological lessons to young children.
तो कितने बच्चे हैं आपके पास?
40 बच्चे करीब हैं।
आप देवबंदी हैं कि बरेलवी हैं? देवबंदी हैं आप। तो क्या पढ़ाते क्या है बच्चों को?
कुरान शरीफ कराते हैं।
ईमान का मतलब क्या होता है?
ईमान का मतलब ये दिन की बातें सुनना।
और काफिर क्या होता है?
क्या कहलवाना चाह रहे हो बच्चों से?
कुछ नहीं, पूछ रहे
सवाल ढंग से पूछो ना बच्चों से। काफिर क्या होता है, ये क्या होता है?
आप मुझे बता दो वो सवाल।
ये छोटे बच्चे हैं, ये मासूम बच्चे, क्या जाना है?
चलिए आप बताइए क्या पूछना है, आप पूछिए।
आप बताओ ना काफिर क्या होता है?
नहीं तो आप बताइए।
काफिर क्या होता है, हिंदू क्या होता है, मुस्लिम क्या होता है? हिंदू मुस्लिम के अलावा आप कोई बोल नहीं है?
तो बताओ ना क्या पूछूं? आप सब लोग मिलकर धमका रहे हो मुझे।
धमकाने की बात है।
ये सवाल क्यों पूछा, वो सवाल क्यों पूछा?
हम नहीं मानते काफिर।
हमें पता नहीं काफिर क्या होता है, कौन होता है काफिर?
बहुत बढ़िया। नहीं होता ना,
हमारे देश में नहीं माना जाता काफिर।
कुछ होता नहीं काफिर,
नहीं होता।
हमारे में बहुत बुरा होता काफिर।
अरे यार मारिए मत यार।
और सब इकट्ठे हो गए, सब घर में रहते हैं दिन के टाइम में घर में।
जैसा आपके साथ भी बदतमीजी आज हुई है, ऐसी सबके साथ यहाँ होती है। तुरंत इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं और मारपीट पर गाली गलौज पर उतारू हो जाते हैं।
According to late IPS officer R.K. Ori, an anti-terror expert and the former head of the Internal Security Academy at Mount Abu, there exist nearly 40 to 50 lakh mosques in India, each typically hosting an attached madrasa or maktab for religious education. The annual cost of maintaining these institutions is a staggering 1,400 crore rupees. According to Professor Mushirul Haq, from a mere 88 madrasas in 1947, the number skyrocketed to approximately 5 lakh by 2006. In a compelling article titled Islamic Madrasas, Servicing and Challenges, Maulana Muhammad Kaleem Siddiqui revealed that by 2003, the number of madrasas had reached 1,25,000 with nearly 30 lakh students enrolled. A madrasa is an exclusivist theological Islamic seminary where the curriculum, known as Darase-e-Nizami, is deeply rooted in Islamic theology and history.
आप इनकी जो तवज्जो गई इस तरफ गई कि मुझे अकाइद पर बहस करनी चाहिए।
In Islam, Aqaid refers to the 6 fundamental principles of faith, starting with Tawheed, the one Allah, affirming Him as the sole creator and sustainer. Risala highlights belief in Allah's messengers, with Prophet Muhammad as the final prophet. Malaika is the belief in angels, divine beings who execute Allah's commands. Qutub refers to the revealed books, including the Quran, the final and unaltered scripture. Qiyamah, or the Day of Judgment, signifies accountability for one's deeds. Lastly, Qadr, or predestination, teaches that all events occur within Allah's divine knowledge and plan.
And when a young mind is indoctrinated in a madrasa, what is done is his free-flowing thought process is confined to a very limited and narrow-minded definition of the divinity. As a result, it inculcates into that young mind a very false sense of self-righteousness, which leads to the slippery path of radicalization.
Madrasas mushroomed in Tamil Nadu in the late 80s. It is because of the Saudi Arabia funding after a series of conversions in Ramanathapuram and the infamous Meenakshipuram in Tirunelveli district. So what before those madrasa era, you can see many Tamil scholars among us Muslims. This madrasa has taken the Muslims away from the Tamil identity, and that is the beginning point of violent terror activities in Tamil Nadu.
Over 3,60,000 students are stuck in the 18th century, being educated in around 3,000 madrasas located in the capital of India, New Delhi. A deep dive into the madrasa syllabus as meticulously documented by Devendra Mittal in his book, Hindustan Mein Madrase, unveils a troubling reality. According to Mittal, students are indoctrinated to worship only Allah. Often taught in Arabic, Urdu or Persian, emphasis is placed on the Quran, Sharia, Hadith and the historical conquests of Islamic warriors. The core ideological teachings in madrasas center around fundamental concepts such as the mu'min or believer, iman meaning faith, kafir referring to a non-believer, dawah which is invitation to Islam, and jihad, often interpreted as a war against kafirs or unbelievers.
I've seen hearts being carved out of bodies. I have seen duct tape being placed on men's eyes, and then they stand them on the mass graves and shoot them, and they don't die, and then they beat them after they have shot them. Dehumanization that is happening on the ground. They make them bark like dogs. They make them walk on legs and their hands, on their knees and hands. It is absolutely an atrocity.
When a radical Muslim is pushing the button of his suicide vest and exploding, or when he is flying a plane into a building, he is visualizing himself as a shaheed in the way of Allah. The technical term is qital fi sabilillah, and he is visualizing that this God called Allah on the day of judgment is going to award him a door to Jannat because of his act against the non-Muslims.
January 10, 2018. An India Today investigation reveals that several madrasas in Kerala teach Wahhabism, an extremist ideology linked to ISIS, which is supported by Hawala funding from Gulf countries.
Whether this is where ISIS ideology is being taught. What we found will shock you.
आप दे रहे हैं खिलाफत की तालीम बच्चों को अपने मदरसे में?
मदरसे में देते हैं ना थोड़ा। खिलाफत का जो बेस में मिलता है वो आपका बुक्स में है ऑलरेडी। हाँ जी, जो आप पढ़ा रहे हैं 100% है।
These seminaries are indoctrinating young minds with the goal of establishing a global caliphate. Key figures admitted to subtly instilling radical ideas in children and showing Zakir Naik videos to promote extremist views.
Each and every pupil know who is Zakir Naik, cassettes and something like that.
The investigation highlights the covert spread of this ideology in Kerala.
Officials who run these madrasas talking about how bit by bit they teach Wahhabi extremist ideology, and they're saying so in their own words.
I always went for the Friday prayers in a Salafi masjid, and there we will be given the sermons in the local language, and in that what you are listening? You are listening about not to take part in the Onam celebration. That's the state celebration here in Kerala. You are not supposed to take part in Onam. You are not supposed to cut a cake on Christmas. And if you do that, even if in the name of coexistence, in the name of religious harmony, you are against Islam and you are doing something that is shirk.
The curriculum advises against forming friendships with idol worshippers known as kafirs, whose fate, they are taught, is eternal damnation. Among the core teachings are the concepts of waging jihad and establishing Islamic rule across India. If this is not radicalization, what is?
काफिर क्या होता है?
काफिर होता है जो अल्लाह को ना माने और इनकार कर दे, और अल्लाह के रसूल को ना माने वो भी इनकार कर दे, और कुरान शरीफ को नहीं पढ़े उसको भी इनकार कर दे कि हम नहीं पढ़ते, हम नहीं मानते एक खुदा को, उसको काफिर कहते हैं।
काफिर को क्या सज़ा देनी चाहिए?
काफिर की सज़ा अल्लाह ने खुदा ने खुद मुतय्यन की है कि वह हमेशा हमेशा के लिए जहन्नम में रहेगा।
तो उनको क्या जवाब आप देंगे जो लोग कहते हैं कि काफिर को लेकर जिहाद सिखाया जाता है?
मैं ये कहता हूँ कि वो पहले इस्लाम का मुताला करें। यूं ही जिहाद कर रहा, लव जिहाद है, ये सारी चीज़ें हैं, पहले जिहाद का मतलब समझे, बुराई को ख़त्म करने का नाम है।
कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं है कि काफिर को बुराई मान लिया जाता है?
नहीं, काफिर है वो अल्लाह का नाफरमान है, अल्लाह की नाफरमानी कर रहा है, वो अब वो तो अल्लाह ने उसका नाम रखा है, उसमें बंदों का तो
उसको
कोई
दंड
नहीं
भी
है।
देना पड़ता है ना
जी
उसको दंड भी तो देना पड़ता है फिर।
नहीं, वो देखिए आप उस चीज़ के ऊपर बहस मत करिए।
Coexistence with kafirs is not allowed. You even talk about going to Syria or even to Afghanistan for jihad because that's your ultimate duty.
জিহাদ মানে কি?
জিহাদ মানে যুদ্ধ করা।
কি রকম যুদ্ধ? কাদের সঙ্গে যুদ্ধ?
কাফিরদের সঙ্গে, নবীজিদের দল, মুসলমানদের দল সঙ্গে।
জিহাদ তো যুদ্ধ হয়, ঘোষণা, যুদ্ধ হয় তো সংগ্রাম है।
सूरतुल बकरा, बकरा सूरत नंबर 2 आयत नंबर 216 कुरान शरीफ में सूरतुल बकरा में है कुतिबु अलैकुमुल किताल व हुवा कुरहुल लकुम व असा अन तकरहु शैअन व हुवा खैरुल लकुम व असा अन तुहिब्बु शैअन व हुवा शर्रुल लकुम वल्लाहु यअलमु व अंतुम ला तअलमून। काफिरों को कत्ल करना, सऊदी अरेबिया में जो कुरान शरीफ की ट्रांसलेशन है वहाँ कत्ल के बजाय फाइट, लड़ाई करना है, परंतु आप साधारण तौर आप समझ सकते हो क्या कुतिबुल अलैकुमुल किताल कत्ल शब्द है, मीनिंग जो है क्या काफिरों को कत्ल करना कंपलसरी है, अनिवार्य है।
Jihad means that it's a war against infidels which will continue till the day of judgment.
The question is whether the children are taught that the punishment for blasphemy is beheading, and they are being taught in our own institutions in India.
The term used in verse 33 of Surah Maida is fitna, which is generally translated as causing corruption in the land or waging war against Allah or its prophet. So these all things come under the ambit of what is loosely termed as blasphemy, and it definitely is a part of Islam. It is not some interpretation which has been done by some radical Muslim. It is Islam.
You remember the beheadings and the videos of the beheadings that the Islamic State put out, and it was repulsive. Why are they doing it? The Quran says, chapter 47, verse 4, when you meet the unbelievers, strike the necks.
The only solution that Islam reforms itself, that Islam starts looking, at, and deleting this part of the encourage, violence, that encourage, forced conversion, that encourage suicide bombers, that encourage, growing up and taking over countries. Islam has to reform itself.
Till the day of the judgment, the war against infidels will be continued, and that war will be waged with ferocity, which will ensure that either the entire world converts to Islam or they are annihilated, they are destroyed.
In these madrasas, students are being instructed by Maulanas on the concept of Dawah, an invitation for non-believers to embrace Islam as the sole truth.
The moment you find a kafir, the first thing that will come to your mind is to identify a chance to do da'wah.
गैर मुस्लिमों से किया जाता है जिहाद, उसे दीन की दावत दी जाती है, अल्लाह के रसूल सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के दीन के बात, यानी अल्लाह पर, एक खुदा पर ईमान लाने की बात कही जाती है कि एक खुदा पर ईमान लाए। जब वो नहीं लाते हैं ईमान, तो फिर उस वक्त जिहाद का हुक्म होता है।
They are also warned that refusal to accept this call could lead to the declaration of jihad against them.
Let me tell you that the attack on Israeli civilians and the holiday goers on the 7th of October 2023 was an act against humanity. The manner in which the brutality was unleashed on the civilians and the militia of Israel is beyond compare. And indeed, I would say, you really have to try very hard to restrain your tears. The manner in which the young babies were thrown into burning petrol, the women were brutalized, their dead bodies were desecrated. Well, what can I say? That the brutality seems to be a part of the Hamas DNA. We find that in Kashmir, a very similar thing happened. Not similar, in fact, a photocopy, an exact replica of what happened there. You would realize that the jihadi genocide sees no national boundaries. What happened to Israel happened to us in Pahalgam on 22nd of April. Netanyahu said that every member of the Hamas is a dead man and he'll be hunted down wherever he is in the world. Prime Minister Modi said that he will hunt down the terrorists wherever they are.
Dawah, the Islamic practice of inviting non-Muslims to convert, was weaponized in a terror plot exposed by the National Investigation Agency (NIA) on June 2, 2023. The NIA dismantled an ISIS-linked module in Jabalpur, Madhya Pradesh, revealing a plan to convert India into an Islamic nation by 2050. At the core was the Dawah to Hindus document, a 20-chapter manifesto filled with venomous lies and distortions, slandering Hindu gods like Lord Ram and Lord Shiv, and perverting scriptures to push an extremist agenda. Ayan Hirsi Ali, author of The Challenge of Dawah and a vocal critic of radical Islam, highlights the fundamental role of Dawah, the Islamic practice of proselytizing.
And you've written this book about it, The Challenge of Dawah, which I'm sure I'm mispronouncing. Would you just, first of all, pronounce it correctly and then tell us what it means?
Da'wah is the way it's pronounced. And what it means is to plead or to call non-Muslims to Islam. And then in the 10 years in Medina that followed, the call, the invitation, the persuasion, the use of language slowly transformed, maybe not so slowly, transformed into the use of force. So Dawah are all the steps that precede jihad.
She explains that Dawah manuals act as blueprints for cultural dominance, subtly guiding followers to impose Islamic norms on societies. This gradual shift, she warns, can pave the way for jihad and the enforcement of Sharia law.
सलाम सेंटर ने इस काम के लिए कई जदीद ज़राए इस्तेमाल किए हैं और वो है ऑटो रिक्शा के ज़रिए दीन की दावत.
Ayan Hirsi Ali, speaking at the Hoover Institution, draws on the philosophy of Karl Popper, who famously argued against tolerating intolerance. Ali warns that modern societies, in the name of tolerance, often allow the spread of extremist ideologies like communism and radical Islamism. She emphasizes that these ideologies, including the practice of Dawah, pose significant threats to global peace and stability. By tolerating such intolerant beliefs, societies risk undermining their own values and freedoms. Ali's message is clear. To protect our world, we must not tolerate the spread of ideologies that seek to destroy it.
If we go back to the Popper principle, where our society then says enough is enough. The Constitution is not a suicide pact. We can agree on trying to fight this particular ideology the way we fought previous ideologies with the same outcomes.
As the President of the US in his first term, Donald Trump made a bold and rare move in modern history by taking a strong ideological stance against radical Islam.
Nor can we let the hateful ideology of radical Islam, its oppression of women, gays, children, and non-believers be allowed to reside or spread within our own countries. We must have to defeat radical Islamic terrorism. But just like we couldn't defeat communism without acknowledging that communism exists or explaining its horrible evils, we can't defeat radical Islamic terrorism unless we do the exact same thing. We have to explain that it exists. That is why one of my first acts as president will be to establish a commission on radical Islam.
President Donald Trump calling on Arab leaders to do their share to fight Islamic extremism Sunday during his speech in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Drive them out. Drive them out of your places of worship. Drive them out of your communities. Drive them out of your holy land. And drive them out of this earth.
Is there a new moment here? Or was he just being a chump like other American presidents?
But if he stood there talking to the king of Saudi Arabia, and this is the crucible of Dawah, that would be a completely different conversation. And I don't think from a diplomatic perspective that that's the kind of conversation you want to have in public. I think behind closed doors, it would make a great deal of sense to use, the Trumpian language of explicitness and say, this is what we're it's the Dawah, it's the ideas and the ideology and the principles of Sharia, of jihad, of commanding right and forbidding wrong. He'll have to get fluent in that himself first.
On March 12, 2001, the world watched in horror as the Taliban reduced the Bamiyan Buddhas to rubble. For 1,500 years, the majestic Bamiyan Buddha statues, the towering monolithic giants, stood as a symbol of universalism and peace. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar reveals a significant fact. The Persian word Buth, meaning idol, originates from Buddha, highlighting the prevalence of Buddha idols in ancient Buddhism. Islamic invaders who rejected idol worship targeted these Buddha idols, leading to a destructive campaign against Buddhism. Ancient universities like Nalanda were sacked and monasteries razed. Thousands of monks fled or were killed, erasing a rich cultural heritage. ISIS, driven by a radical ideology, has waged a devastating campaign against Christianity in Iraq, Syria, and beyond. Their propaganda films glorify the bombing of churches and the destruction of crosses. This violent iconoclasm underscores their mission to erase religious diversity and impose their extremist vision, causing widespread devastation to Christian heritage and communities across the region. Historian Didi Kosambi confirms that in about 1200 AD, raiders under Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khalji destroyed the tremendous complex at Sarnath. This doctrine of iconoclasm, branding the mere existence of images and idols as heretical, continues to echo through the acts of the believers, fostering a cycle of intolerance and violence. During Ganesh Chaturthi in September 1983, Hyderabad witnessed one of its worst communal riots, leaving 43 people dead. Knife-wielding gangs roamed the streets, escalating violence that was fueled by deep-seated religious and political tensions.
Central doctrine of Islam, as any Muslim will tell you, is Tawheed, which means to declare as one, to make into one, that is to say monotheism, to say that God is one. So what follows from this is that everything else except God should not be worshipped. That is why if Hindus carry around the idol, the murti of, let's say, Ganesha, then that's a valid target for attack.
In the year 2024, Ganesh Chaturthi witnessed a shocking wave of violence erupt across India. These brutal attacks trace back to the self-righteous ideology of iconoclasm. They hate idol worship while portraying Hindu deities as demonic entities. With 17 reported serious incidents, this orchestrated violence appears to be a calculated and well-planned effort to strike fear and disruption during a cherished Hindu festival. Stone pelting, arson and chaos erupted, marking a disturbing escalation in radical attempts to intimidate dharmic communities. It was as if the theocratic oppression faced by Hindus in neighboring Pakistan and Bangladesh was being imposed within India itself. According to the late IPS officer R.K. Ori, after the year 2000, Saudi Arabia alone has rolled out nearly $90 billion for propagation of Wahhabi Islam through establishment of thousands of mosques and madrasas. More than 25% of the $90 billion in petrodollars have been funneled into India, Nepal and Bangladesh to establish additional madrasas. Significant funds have also been transferred from other Muslim nations, including Pakistan, to support the proliferation of madrasas across South Asia, intensifying the global jihad campaign. According to security experts, the increasing number of madrasas globally has significantly contributed to the rise of terrorism over the past several decades. This trend is evident in various regions, including Kashmir, where a surge in madrasas funded by Pakistan's ISI and Gulf charities preceded the secessionist movement. An Intelligence Bureau report stated that between 2011 and 2013, 25,000 Wahhabi preachers visited India, holding seminars across several states. These activities signaled a covert effort to reshape the country's religious landscape and advance Saudi geopolitical interests. In June 2015, WikiLeaks revealed a major transfer from Saudi Arabia to India, amounting to rupees 1,700 crore. This money was used to promote the Wahhabi belief system. The goal was to counter Iran's growing influence among India's Shia community. It was part of a broader strategy to limit Iran's impact in the region. Each time a Saudi-sponsored Wahhabi preacher arrives in India, he brings a rule book dictating strict guidelines. Shrines shall be forbidden. Muslim women must wear parda or face severe punishment. Men must grow beards and wear trousers above their ankles. Women should not work unless absolutely necessary. Public mingling of men and women is prohibited. Loud weeping at funerals, listening to music, dancing, and watching television are banned. Several prestigious academic studies highlight the alarming connection between madrasas and terrorism. The RAND Corporation and a World Bank study emphasize how madrasas in South Asia can foster militancy. The International Crisis Group, ICG, found that Pakistani madrasas affiliated with Deobandi and Ahle Hadith sects were more likely to be involved in militant activities. These religious schools, which provide free education and lodging, have received external funding, especially from Gulf countries. The report highlights the need for reform and regulation to address extremism within the madrasa system. In 2004, Pervez Hoodboy, a professor at Islamabad's Quaid-e-Azam University, wrote in Foreign Affairs that Pakistani schools, including madrasas, produce zealots driven by jihad and martyrdom.
लाइब्रेरी पीरियड इस्लामाबाद के स्कूलों में खत्म कर दिया गया है, कंप्यूटर साइंस खत्म कर दिया गया है। अंजाम इसका ये कि आज हमारे स्कूल और मदरसे एक होते जा रहे हैं।
According to the New York-based Combating Terrorism Center, West Point, structured interviews with over 100 students from 4 Indonesian madrasas revealed striking correlation between unusual belief systems and radicalization. While schools like Darussalam and Al-Husseini promote a more moderate form of Islam, others, such as Al-Islam Madrasa, Tenggulun, East Java stand out for their extreme teachings. At Al-Islam Madrasa, 91% of students believe that it is their duty to fight and kill non-Muslims, a stark contrast to the 35% at other institutions. Additionally, students who think people are inherently evil are 11 times more likely to support violence against non-Muslims. These findings underscore the dangerous influence of radical madrasas in shaping extreme ideologies and actions. According to a paper published by Mindanao State University in Marawi City, Philippines, a significantly higher number of girls attending madrasas have undergone female circumcision compared to those receiving Western education. The study highlights religious justifications as the primary driving force behind the continued prevalence of the practice. Researchers found that in rural areas across Lanao del Sur, female circumcision remains widespread, with cultural and religious beliefs deeply influencing local communities. Despite efforts to modernize education and healthcare, the study underscores the persistence of this tradition, particularly in more isolated regions. Female genital mutilation, FGM, is tied to the same extremist ideologies that fuel terrorism, as noted by Ayan Hirsi Ali.
At the age of 5, my genitals were cut. And when I was old enough to ask, why did that happen? My grandmother was very, she readily explained it as, well, we purified you. And if you are not purified, you will never find a husband. So that kind of practice is, and it isn't something that happened only to me, it happened to, and it happens according to United Nations numbers, to 98% of Somalis.
She emphasizes how certain madrasas perpetuate both violence and FGM, a practice causing severe pain, infections, and lasting trauma. UNICEF reports that over 20 crore girls and women across 30 countries have endured FGM, with over 5 lakh affected in Europe alone.
There's over 135,000 women and girls in the UK who have been directly affected by FGM. 43% of those are aged between 5 and 9. FGM has been illegal in the UK since 1985. Since 2003, anyone convicted faces 14 years in prison. This is totally irrelevant though, as there is yet to be a single conviction or prosecution in over 30 years.
Supreme Court has questioned the practice of genital mutilation among minor girls. Dawoodi Bohra Muslim community. The Supreme Court has questioned the practice of genital mutilation among minor girls of Dawoodi Bohra Muslim community. Court also said that genital mutilation was an attack on the right to privacy.
In the year 2002 in India, former West Bengal Chief Minister Buddhadev Bhattacharya of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, took a decisive stance against the unchecked proliferation of madrasas, advocating a shift towards modern secular education.
The problem is that some madrasas, they are not joining the mainstream, they are not getting affiliated to madrasa board, and they are teaching only Arabic language and theology. I feel that Muslim community should understand this problem and they should change this policy and they should come to the mainstream.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! His bold move sparked fierce backlash from both the so-called secular and Islamist establishments. Assam's Chief Minister Hemanta Biswa Sarma has also been a vocal proponent of regulating madrasas to curb radicalization, implementing policies to transform some of these institutions into mainstream schools.
जब तक ये मद्रासा दिमाग में घूमते रहेगा, तब तक बच्चा को भी डॉक्टर इंजीनियर नहीं बन सकता है.
We are demolishing madrasas run by jihadis. We have sufficient proof against them. Lot of proofs. They have a lot of proof against them. Then only we do such kind of demolish activities.
August 3, 2022. India's security agencies are on high alert due to unexpected demographic shifts along the India-Nepal border. In Uttar Pradesh, 116 border villages have become Muslim majority, with the Muslim population increasing by 32% since 2011. October 3, 2023. Nepal faced a disturbing incident in the Bankhe district of Nepalganj as communal clashes erupted between Hindu and Islamist groups. The tension began on October 1 during an Eid-e-Milad procession where Islamist groups raised provocative slogans like "Sar Tan Se Juda," inciting violence. This led to stone pelting and arson against Hindus. In response, a Hindu group organized a peaceful protest, which was met with hostility and attacks, escalating the conflict. Meanwhile, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, a shining star of the BJP and a Hindutva icon, has undertaken firm measures to de-radicalize madrasas and bring them under government oversight. October 23, 2023. The Uttar Pradesh government has launched a special investigation team, SIT, to probe 4,000 madrasas along the Indo-Nepal border, suspected of receiving foreign funds. According to the SIT, such funds help promote terror-related activities or forced religious conversions. As we approach the Darul Uloom Deoband Madrasa of 1866 in western Uttar Pradesh, there's an unmistakable sense of apprehension. This institution, an international center for Islamic learning, has often been flagged by global security experts as a breeding ground for jihadis. M.J. Akbar aptly noted, jihad is the signature tune of Islamic history. And perhaps this is where the first chords were struck. Mullah Muhammad Omar, born in 1960 in Kandahar, founded the Taliban in 1994. He was educated at Pakistan's Deobandi seminary called the Darul Uloom Haqqaniya. His rise and the Taliban's eventual stranglehold over Afghanistan was deeply rooted in the Deobandi teachings he absorbed. The ideological ties between the Taliban and Pakistan's madrasas are undeniable. B. Raman, former head of counter-terrorism at India's Research and Analysis Wing, exposed the direct connections between Pakistan's Deobandi seminaries and jihadi networks. He warned that these institutions, rather than being passive religious schools, serve as militant factories. Pakistan is not just negligent, it is complicit. Raman emphasized that Pakistan's intelligence agencies see these militants as strategic assets in their geopolitical games, particularly in India and Afghanistan. The Haqqani network, responsible for countless atrocities in Afghanistan, draws its roots from these very seminaries. The same goes for Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is behind major terror strikes in India. The 2014 Peshawar school massacre by the TTP highlighted the group's deep roots in the Deobandi movement. The Deobandi school of thought is known for its strict and puritanical beliefs. They have been fostering intolerance towards Shias and others labeled as kafirs or infidels. This ideology is mainly propagated through the Tablighi Jamaat missionary group. This process has tragically contributed to the targeting and radicalization of young people. It is imperative that international human rights organizations raise awareness and protect the vulnerable Shia minorities in Pakistan from such hatred and violence. Lashkar-e-Jhangvi, notorious for its sectarian violence, has unleashed horrors on Pakistan's Shia population, all in the name of Deobandi extremism. The Rawalpindi Ashura massacre of 2012 and the Quetta bombings of 2013 are grim reminders of Pakistan's deep-seated sectarian violence against the Shia community. The Shia community in Pakistan has endured a relentless wave of violence. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. From 2001 to 2018, a staggering 4,847 Shias lost their lives to sectarian attacks. The terror escalated between 2012 and 2015, with over 1,900 Shias killed in bombings and targeted gun attacks. The nightmare persisted from 2021 to 2023, claiming more than 1,900 lives and leaving over 1,100 injured. Each number represents a precious life extinguished, a family shattered, and a community living in fear. These acts of terror, along with the countless attacks on Shia mosques, reveal Pakistan's hand in fueling both sectarian and global jihadi movements.
The huge attacks which have happened in Pakistan against Shias, where thousands of Shias have been killed, it emanates from the attacks by the Deobandis. What is the reason?
Well, the attacks on the Shias are ultimately the same phenomenon as attacks on Hindus or other unbelievers. Namely, they are some sort of apostates, they are some sort of non-Muslims in the sense that they have a different view of the basic teachings of Islam.
Pakistan's complicity is unmistakable. As long as these seminaries are allowed to function without consequences, they will continue to produce extremists who threaten regional and global security. The world must not only recognize Pakistan's role, but hold it accountable. January 5, 2022. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath took a bold step by laying the foundation stone for an anti-terrorism squad, ATS, Commando Training Center in Deoband, Saharanpur. This location will now host 56 elite commandos. Adityanath delivered a clear message to terrorists.
अगर देश के खिलाफ साजिश करोगे, हमारे नागरिकों की सुरक्षा के लिए खतरा बनोगे, तो हमारे कमांडो तुम्हें निकाल करके कहीं भी छुपोगे, ओसामा बिन लादेन की तरह कहीं भी छुपे रहोगे तो भी निकाल करके तुम्हारा काम तमाम करने का कार्य करेंगे.
Spanning over 2,000 square meters, the center will monitor communally sensitive areas of western Uttar Pradesh. This move is part of a larger plan, with similar centers being built across the state in sensitive places like Meerut, Bharuch, Shravasti and Gautam Budh Nagar to fortify national security. February 22, 2024. It was reported by the press and various TV channels all over the world a query was put before the Darul Uloom Deoband. Does the Hadith mention the invasion of India known as the Ghazwa-e-Hind, which will take place in the subcontinent? And whoever will be martyred in it would be proclaimed as a great martyr, and the one who will be Ghazi will go to heaven. Jannat, please reply. The prestigious seat of Islam, the Darul Uloom Deoband Madrasa, replied in affirmative. It was shocking indeed that the Deoband Madrasa itself welcomed an attack on India called Ghazwa-e-Hind.
The madrasa claims that those who died during the invasion of India will be called great martyrs and will go to heaven.
अगर राष्ट्रद्रोह की गतिविधियां बच्चों को सिखाने के लिए किया जा रहा है, तो राष्ट्रद्रोह की धाराओं के तहत दारुल उलूम देवबंद पर FIR दर्ज की है.
Jinnah's demand for a corridor linking West and East Pakistan was driven by his ambition to unify Muslim-majority regions, a vision that aligns with the Deoband fatwa for Ghazwa-e-Hind, the conquest of India. As documented in VP Menon's The Transfer of Power, Jinnah's proposal raised suspicions, with Congress leaders strongly opposing it. Although the Viceroy's intervention halted the plan, its echoes have persisted. Rahmat Ali, who coined the name Pakistan in his 1933 pamphlet Now or Never, laid the ideological foundation with a map advocating for an expansive Muslim state, which shaped Jinnah's corridor vision. Decades later, in 2003, physicist Dr. J.K. Bajaj identified a demographic corridor forming between Pakistan and Bangladesh, eerily resembling Jinnah's original plan. This was later corroborated by the ISI-backed Mughalistan Research Institute's map, emphasizing the ongoing demographic and strategic aggression. The alignment of Jinnah's corridor with Ghazwa-e-Hind reflects a deeper, long-term plan for geopolitical dominance in the region.
As far as I can see, there is a global design to create a South Asian caliphate.
On July 25, 2024, the UP ATS exposed a terrorist network linked to Darul Uloom Deoband. involving foreign funding for mosques and settling Rohingya Muslims in Indian cities. The plot included plans to build mosques near the Pakistan and Bangladesh borders. The ATS continues to investigate the network's roots and funding sources. The cold-blooded behavior pattern of Rohingya terrorists can be determined from Amnesty International's report of August 2017. The report showed that they were responsible for the brutal massacre of 99 Hindus in Myanmar's Rakhine state. By September 2017, a Government of India affidavit confirmed that 40,000 Rohingya Muslims had entered India. However, unofficial estimates suggest the number could be 10 times higher.
Tamil Nadu is an obvious destination for Rohingyas. Some Muslim organizations, they go and hand over children from Rohingya camps to people belonging to the Muslim communities from Indian origin. And likewise, it is not only Rohingya settlement which is happening, it is Rohingya procreation is also happening in Tamil Nadu.
With ties to ISIS and Pakistan-based terror groups, Rohingyas are involved in human trafficking, drug smuggling and circulating fake currency. Rohingya settlements near critical military installations like Sanjuwan and Nagrota army camps, along with vital infrastructure like Indian oil depots and railway tracks, pose a direct national security threat. UPCM Yogi Adityanath now faces a critical moment to stop this growing threat before it spirals further.
रोहिंग्या जो हैं म्यांमार के, ये भारत में शरणार्थी नहीं बल्कि घुसपैठी है।
According to PEW research, the Muslim population in Europe has experienced significant growth. In 1990, Europe was home to around 2.96 crore Muslims. By 2010, that number increased to 4.41 crore, and projections now suggest that it will surpass 5.80 crore by 2030. Currently, Muslims make up about 6% of Europe's total population, up from 4.1% in 1990. By 2030, they're expected to account for roughly 8%. This growth is particularly evident in countries like France, Germany, and the UK, driven by migration and higher birth rates. Author Ed Hussein's Among the Mosques reveals how changing demographics are driving segregation and fear in parts of the UK. In Blackburn, where nearly 30% of the population is Muslim, white residents report no-go areas. Like Valley Range, where one father says his 12-year-old son was attacked 5 times just for being white.
We're seeing an organised minority who've produced almost kind of 42,000 terror suspects which are under MI5's watch. That's serious. And if Muslims and more mosques emerge without that cancer uprooted, then what we're looking at is something much more serious.
Hussein observes that in towns like Bradford and Dewsbury, with Muslim populations exceeding 25%, communities are physically in Britain but mentally living elsewhere, with Taliban-like restrictions on women and children.
I'm Raheem Kassam, editor-in-chief.
Raheem Kassam, author of No-Go Zones, similarly warns that unchecked migration and parallel communities are fracturing social cohesion in cities like Birmingham and Luton. These findings suggest a growing divide tied directly to demographic shifts, raising urgent questions about integration and national unity.
And this channel was roundly attacked for asserting that there were parts of Paris where non-Muslims couldn't go, a no-go zone. And the left in the US said that's outrageous, it's bigoted even to suggest something like that. You just wrote a book on it.
I traveled across Europe and even to places in the United States where I see Sharia law emanating, where I see dominant Muslim populations dictating what can and does happen in their neighborhoods. I've seen areas in which terrorists find enclaves and find shelter. I found places that actually young white girls just can't go, otherwise they're harassed and set upon.
Elon Musk's tweet on grooming gangs exposed a harrowing truth: the systematic sexual exploitation of children in the UK, predominantly by men of Pakistani origin.
There were migrant rape gangs in England that were gangs that would run around and prey on young girls, gang rape them. And some people found that objectionable, which obviously it should be objectionable. And they were upset about that. And so they complained about it online and were sent to prison.
Musk criticized politicians for staying silent, accusing them of complicity in failing to protect victims out of fear of being labeled racist. This silence has allowed decades of abuse to go unchecked. In England alone, almost 19,000 children were sexually groomed in just 1 year, according to The Independent. Home Secretary Sajid Javid ordered an investigation into why members of sexual grooming gangs were disproportionately from a Pakistani background.
20% of the Muslim men in Telford were involved in prostituting and raping children. 5 women are dead, including children, in that town. This is just one small town called Telford with 3,500 Muslims in it.
In India, child grooming, also known as love jihad, is a growing concern, with reports of online and offline exploitation on the rise. Child grooming is a sinister process where adults build trust with children online or in person to manipulate and exploit them for sexual purposes. This heinous crime has reached epidemic proportions globally. Rotherham is a charming town nestled in South Yorkshire, England. Here, the rolling hills of the Pennines meet the industrial heritage of the north. This is home to warm-hearted gentlemen and ladies who are law-abiding citizens who embody the values of community and resilience. But beneath its idyllic facade, a dark secret lurked. Between 2003 and 2008, 7 individuals committed unimaginable crimes: grooming, drugging, raping, and assaulting vulnerable girls, some as young as 11 and 15. These heinous acts, part of a systemic child abuse scandal, shattered 1,400 innocent lives and left lifelong scars. In September of 2024, justice was served. The 7 perpetrators were collectively jailed for 106 years, with sentences ranging from 10 to 19 years. Sweden, a nation renowned for its kindness, leads the world in compassion. From protecting animals to embracing vegetarianism and veganism, its society is built on care and inclusivity. In 2015, Sweden extended this compassion to over 163,000 Muslim refugees, offering them sanctuary during Europe's largest migration wave. With a population of just 1 crore, Sweden welcomed more migrants per capita than any other European country, driven by a desire to provide safety to those fleeing war and hardship. But this generosity faced a bitter betrayal. In the small town of Östersund, once known for its peaceful streets, women became targets of brutal assaults. Police, for the first time, warned women not to walk alone at night after multiple attacks by foreign men. The violence shocked the nation known for its commitment to gender equality.
The sexual violence is increasing because of the number of immigrant men from Muslim-majority countries who are responsible for most of these, not all of them, but for most of these.
The heartbreak continued in Malmö, where a group of Arab migrants filmed themselves pushing a Ukrainian refugee into a freezing river, laughing as he struggled to survive. In 2020, Sweden implemented stringent measures to curb foreign influence on religious schools amid rising concerns over extremism in immigrant communities. The government tightened regulations ensuring schools adhered to secular and democratic values. Teachers now face an unimaginable struggle in Muslim migrant no-go zones like Järva, Stockholm. A 60-year-old teacher is called dirty by students simply for being white and Christian. These students, many from immigrant backgrounds, lash out at those who differ from them. Parents attend school meetings in bulletproof vests due to rampant gun violence.
Even the parents who visit their school children, they have to go in bulletproof vests because of the firing which happens in those schools, in no-go areas.
They wanted to make native Swedes the minority and bring in everyone. And so they have realized that this experiment hasn't really succeeded, that this has gone too far. But now they are doing what is necessary. So, I mean, on this we have to compliment them. They are realistic. They are doing what is, called for. Unlike some other countries where this is impossible. In Holland also, similarly, you see a number of right-wing or, middle centrist parties getting together and pursuing this agenda.
Despite the constant threats, many teachers remain believing in the power of education. The Swedish government, desperate to keep educators in these dangerous zones, offers bonus pay. But is money enough? Will we allow those who dedicate their lives to educating our children to be terrorized? According to the prestigious international think tank, Fundapol, France has been the most affected country by Islamist violence in the European Union, with 85 terror attacks leading to 334 deaths between 1979 and 2024. Globally, leaders like French President Emmanuel Macron have implemented policies to regulate Islamic educational institutions, including madrasas, as part of a broader strategy to combat radical Islamism.
Even the madrasas imparting Islamic education, regulations are coming in France by a progressive leftist, almost leftist Macron.
Unlike in many other countries, in France a critical mass of secularists still has that reflex. We don't want religious encroachment on the public space.
Macron's government introduced the anti-separatism bill, which allows for increased scrutiny of religious institutions, mandates transparency in funding, and provides the state with the power to shut down madrasas that promote extremist ideologies.
Under the legislation, women refusing to take the niqab off will be fined nearly $200.
Additionally, the law emphasizes the need for a secular curriculum and requires children to attend public schools to prevent radicalization from an early age. These actions reflect a growing recognition worldwide of the need to balance religious education with national security and social cohesion.
What would you say about the anti-Islamic or the right-wing movement which is gaining ground in many countries of Europe?
As Keir Starmer dared to put it, it's a right-wing conspiracy and so on. Not at all. This is very mainstream. This is just back to normal.
In June 2023, France witnessed widespread riots following the police shooting of 17-year-old Nahel Marzouk, igniting chaos led by Algerian immigrants and their supporters. Public buildings, cars and shops were torched, and the Jewish community faced targeted anti-Semitic attacks. Islamist figures like Ayat Urabi gloated, framing the mayhem as justified revenge against France for its perceived crimes against Muslims. Despite President Macron condemning the incident, regimes like Iran, with their own atrocious human rights records, seized the opportunity to criticize France. Macron's 2020 reforms aimed at integrating Muslim immigrants and countering Islamist extremism have only intensified backlash from Islamist groups who accuse him of leading a campaign against Islam. In 2022, Italy under Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni took decisive action by introducing laws to curb foreign funding of Islamic schools, signaling a commitment to protecting Italy's secular values. Meloni's policies placed Italy alongside other European nations, fighting radicalization through education reforms. In response to the 2017 Vienna attack, Austria passed a series of reforms under Chancellor Sebastian Kurz. Austrian authorities shut down madrasas linked to extremism, banned foreign funding for Islamic institutions, and cracked down on religious schools promoting radical ideologies. The United European Front, from Meloni's reforms in Italy to Macron's leadership in France and Wilders' long-standing advocacy in the Netherlands, highlights a continent-wide commitment to defending secular and democratic values. Europe's fight to curb extremism in religious education continues to play a critical role in securing the future of the continent against radical Islamic ideologies. Outrage erupted in Turkey after a concert in Riyadh featured the Kaaba's silhouette as stage decor, sparking accusations of disrespect towards Islam. On November 14, 2024, Riyadh hosted the once unthinkable, a glittering celebration for Elie Saab's 45th anniversary, featuring stars like Jennifer Lopez, Celine Dion and Camila Cabello. Over 1,000 guests grooved on music, costumes, and glamour. A stark break from Saudi Arabia's illiberal past. It was a cultural shock, a display of Western opulence and bold self-expression. While not true female empowerment, it marked a radical shift under Mohammed bin Salman, a nation boldly departing from its frosty, medieval, closed and conservative past to embrace a new era of openness. In September 2017, MBS announced that women would be allowed to drive, ending a decades-long prohibition. This landmark decision, effective June 24, 2018, enhanced women's independence and mobility, marking a major milestone in their empowerment. By June 2018, women were allowed to attend sports events in stadiums for the first time. This move signaled the beginning of greater inclusion in public entertainment and sports sectors, breaking long-standing social barriers. In the vast expanse of the Arabian desert, a revolution is quietly taking shape. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, is orchestrating a remarkable transformation of Saudi Arabia. This is not merely an economic overhaul, it's a profound shift in ideology, lifestyle, and global influence. For decades, Saudi Arabia's oil wealth has been the lifeblood of its economy and a major source of its influence. This wealth funded the spread of Wahhabism, a strict interpretation of Islam. With every rise in oil prices, the kingdom's ability to promote this ideology grew. But now, MBS is forging a new path. His reforms are extensive and groundbreaking. According to reports, Saudi Arabia's transformation includes a selective interpretation of Hadith by setting aside those texts that have justified extreme practices. For example, restrictions on women's movement and dress are being re-examined, aligning religious teachings with modern values like gender equality.
You know what the scholars are saying? If you go up and see what all the scholars are saying, they're saying this would relegate only 10% of the hadith, therefore, are authoritative. 10%.
If you look at it in a historical context of what societies had to go through to neuter their conservative right-wing religious class, that usually only happened with civil wars. This has all happened without a single cleric being, killed or no violence on the streets. And I think that is virtually miraculous.
We are developing the first phase of our cognitive city, the Line, the reimagined industrial city.
At the heart of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 lies the NEOM project. A groundbreaking development with an estimated cost now exceeding $1.5 trillion, as reported by the Wall Street Journal. More than just a city, NEOM is envisioned as a transformative hub for innovation, sustainability, and cutting-edge technologies like AI, renewable energy, and smart infrastructure. It represents a pivotal step in reducing the kingdom's dependence on oil revenues and reshaping its global image. The massive funding demands of NEOM leave little room for financing initiatives linked to Wahhabism and pan-Islamic terrorism. Instead, NEOM prioritizes global competitiveness, transparency, and a vision of progress, inclusivity, and modern living.
70% of the Saudi people are less than 30 years old. And quite frankly, we will not waste 30 years of our lives in dealing with extremist ideas. We will destroy them today.
If Mohammed bin Salman succeeds, his legacy could mirror Gorbachev's Glasnost and Perestroika, driving a much-needed renaissance in the Islamic world.
Islam is reforming itself from within, like it has in Saudi Arabia, like it has in Abu Dhabi and in the Emirates. And I was surprised and delighted to see a lovely Akshardham temple which has come up on the soil of Abu Dhabi with the permission and encouragement of the sheikhs of Abu Dhabi.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Iranians are growing tired of the Ayatollahs and a nation led by the empty promises of their Islamic theocracy. An anonymous internal poll found that 80% now prefer a democratic government, and many are leaving Islam.
Iran too faces its own silent revolution. Over 50,000 mosques have reportedly closed, signaling a profound societal shift. Women and youth spearhead resistance through acts of defiance, removing clerics' turbans, challenging dress codes, and reclaiming public spaces through music and dance. These actions reflect a growing demand for freedom and modernization, paralleling Saudi Arabia's reforms but arising from grassroots resistance rather than top-down initiatives.
Mariam Namazi, she's an Iranian ex-Muslim. She lives in UK. She had already told internet is doing to Islam what the printing press did to Christianity.
In 2022, a young woman by the name of Mahsa Amini was detained by Iran's so-called morality police in Tehran. Amini was pulled into a police van. She died in the hospital 3 days later.
In Iran, disillusioned citizens are turning to Christianity, while ancient faiths like Zoroastrianism and Yazdanism are witnessing a resurgence. This movement reflects a yearning to reconnect with pre-Islamic heritage, sparking a cultural renaissance despite government resistance. Saudi Arabia's $100 billion investment in promoting Wahhabism has fueled radical ideologies, destabilizing nations such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, and India, and spreading extremism across Southeast Asia and Africa. While Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 signifies a pivot towards modernization, the issue of reparations for past damages remains unresolved. Addressing this is crucial for genuine reconciliation. Though Saudi Arabia's transformation brings benefits, it does not heal deeper historical wounds. Centuries of Mughal and Turkic rule inflicted lasting psychological scars on Hindus through genocides and cultural erasure, fracturing a once thriving civilization.
The instances of iconoclasm all over the country can be documented and have been documented by scholars like Sitaram Goel.
These historical wounds resonate in present-day challenges like land jihad, no-go zones, and communal unrest, fueled by demographic aggression, terror links, and foreign-backed ideological warfare. A chilling manifestation is unmitigated love jihad.
हिंदू के नाम डाल करके इससे बात कर रहा था, मुसलमान का इससे बात नहीं कर रहा.
Muslim men are accused of luring non-Muslim women into Islam through deception, coercion, and violence. Reports trace this phenomenon to petrodollar-sponsored Wahhabism, radicalizing groups like the Popular Front of India, and enabling lavish lifestyles that lure victims into ideological traps.
बात मेरठ की, जहां मां और बेटे की हत्या करने वाले शमशाद किस तरह का हैवान था, इसकी नई तस्वीर सामने आई है।
शमशाद यहीं पर महिला और उस बेटी के साथ रहता था और यहीं पर महिला और बेटी का कत्ल किया। इसी कमरे के अंदर उनको दफन किया, गड्ढा खोदा गया, नमक डाला गया।
इस्लाम धर्म स्वीकार करने के लिए दबाव बनाने लगा, मीट खाने के लिए दबाव बनाने लगा, पूजा पद्धति बदलने के लिए दबाव बनाने लगा और प्रिया ने मना किया तो शमशाद ने प्रिया और कशिश दोनों लड़कियों को मारकर अपने ही घर के बेडरूम में दबा दिया था।
Addressing these scars rooted in systemic foreign-sponsored extremism is crucial for India to reclaim its cultural identity and foster lasting harmony.
There's global condemnation for the targeting of Hindus and other minorities in Bangladesh.
The ousting of Sheikh Hasina has triggered horrific violence against minority Bangladeshi Hindus and Buddhists. Over 2,000 attacks have left dozens dead, women raped, and hundreds of temples destroyed, including fatal attacks on ISKCON devotees. Fueled by Madrasa radicalization, often funded under Saudi Wahhabism, this extremism continues to spread hatred and instability. Meanwhile, Pakistan's belligerence in Kashmir and the western border, with ISI tentacles spread across the country, continues to destabilize the region.
उन्होंने गोली लगने के बावजूद अपना हथियार उठाया और आतंकियों की तरफ लगातार गोलीबारी शुरू कर दी।
India, facing these dual threats from Pakistan and Bangladesh, may be compelled to act decisively if provocations persist.
The solution to your internalized problems, with jihadi radical Islam will come when the Indian armed forces break up Pakistan into 4 or 5. Baluchistan, Pashtunkhwa, right? West Punjab, Sairikia. And if you want to add Gilgit-Baltistan, you are welcome.
However, Saudi Arabia under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman holds significant influence over radical elements and can play a crucial role in ensuring peace and regional stability by curbing extremist forces in both nations. At this defining moment, MBS has a rare opportunity to cement the sincerity of his reforms. Reforms that echo the transformative vision of Gorbachev's Glasnost and Perestroika, as well as the bold modernization of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. By championing stability, inclusivity, and progress, he could not only reshape Saudi Arabia's future, but also redefine its global leadership, leaving a legacy that resonates far beyond its borders.